He was kind of an asshole. He was an outspoken anti-communist segregationalist, which is just a fancy way of saying he was racist.
Not the last time a president will explode on a woman's dress. Thank you, Clinton.
Yeah.
I apologize in advance.
You'll make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the show. It has come to my attention that Scott and I said fuck 45 times in our last episode. And it has also come to my attention that that is excessive. So we've been given a fuck quota of 5 fucks, and I've already used 3 of them.
Fuck. Now we're done. Right? We're all...
Yeah, well, fuck it. Yes. We're done.
Even people with Tourette's are like, these guys need to dial it back.
They need to calm down. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're sort of on this conspiracies kick. Last episode was different conspiracies. We will get back to the true crime eventually. But today we're going to be doing arguably one of the most famous true crime, cases in the United States, and that is the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Huge conspiracy.
Yeah. So for those that may not be super familiar with some of the things that John F. Kennedy did, we got a couple of his accomplishments. I mean, he was a very well-liked president, at least by most people. These are the things that we're about to describe here are the facts that actually happened, and all of the serious theories on what could have actually occurred that day, and then kind of our take on some of the questions and inconsistencies that linger.
Big time. Because we're not going to say stupid shit like aliens. We're going to touch base on facts.
Yeah.
And you guys can go from there with it.
And there's like hundreds of conspiracies, from the actual things that are plausible to like just stupid shit, like the Pope did it in things, we watched a video of it, and that was one of the conspiracies, is the Catholic Church was behind it.
Wow.
So it's just stupid. John F. Kennedy was inaugurated into the American presidency seat in 1961. Between then and when he met his demise, he accomplished a lot of different things. So we're going to just kind of talk about some of the things he did real quick. So he was in the military in his earlier years. He was in the Navy. He actually earned the Navy and Marine Corps Medal and a Purple Heart. This was due to an incident that occurred in 1943 where he was injured during a Japanese destroyer boat collision. What he did was, the boat was hit, some of the sailors were injured and in the water, and he was injured himself, and he just dove right in the water to try to save them.
He ruined his back playing football at Harvard.
Right.
And then he joins the service, and when he got hit by this Japanese boat was so big, they didn't even know he hit JFK's boat.
The little boat, yeah.
Didn't even know. Just shredded through him like crazy. So he flies to the back of the boat and ruins his back, and then it capsizes. And
right. Yeah, because a destroyer is a pretty good-sized boat, and he was in one of those sort of PT boats that are smaller, just like a 4 or 5 man crew, right?
Yeah. If you want to go bass fishing, you got to kick somebody out. It's that
right.
Small.
Yeah.
He literally pulled a fellow sailor through the shark-infested waters by the sailor's strap on his life vest with his teeth. So JFK could navigate through, get them all to shore by pulling with his teeth. Sounds tough until you see the size of his teeth. And you know what? He could have towed the fucking Titanic back to Manhattan with those chompers.
He does have a bright smile.
They all have huge, bright smiles. But what's really cool about JFK is he gets to the island, this whatever random island, because it's dark out. They don't even know where land is. And
wow.
And there's sharks everywhere.
Right.
He gets to this island. The next day, they come across 2 Solomon Islanders. And these Solomon Islanders living on the island, their job is to look out for the Japanese and to warn people.
They'd never seen a white man before.
Never. So JFK spends all of his time trying to explain to these islanders, we're American and we need help. So he took a coconut and he wrote on this coconut, Commander native nose position. He can pilot. 11 alive. Need small boat. Kennedy. And he gave it to these people. And he's like, go to the Americans. Shows them like the American flag. Go to them. So they took it to the Americans and they were rescued.
Wow. That's
JFK,
crazy.
if you want to see this, it's in his memorial museum. He had it as a paperweight. He had it like,
the coconut?
The coconut was a paperweight. He had it all kind of like, what is that?
Like covered in resin and
Yeah.
preserved.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome.
But if you flip the other side of the coconut, it says 11 alive, landed on wrong island, send small boat, and instructions to Epstein's island. So
I feel like Kennedy may have, if he was alive at the time, may have visited Epstein's island. I don't know. Well, we don't know.
Heck yes. Oh, yes.
So some of his other accomplishments were the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Kennedy actually initiated this bill, and it ultimately led to the Civil Rights Act being signed into law. So what this did is it outlawed discrimination in public, including employment and in schools. He had a strong moral compass when it came to civil rights. That's probably it, though.
Yeah.
Because he liked to bang him some hoes.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually also appointed African Americans into positions within the federal government, which, at the time, that was unheard of, right?
Oh, it was a major no-no. That was like, what the hell's going on?
Over his tenure also as president, the economy grew steadily, unemployment rates dropped, and inflation was low. And very famous event also, Kennedy pushed the space race between the United States and Soviet Union. He promised to land an American on the moon. And the Americans, we were mesmerized with his "We choose to go to the moon" speech in 1962. His speech inspired more government funding for the space program.
There was two meanings to his "We choose to go to the moon" speech. The other one made it okay for husbands to demand anal on their birthday. And that is a federal law.
It is.
Yeah.
So remember that, ladies. So yeah, he definitely contributed heavily to us putting a man on the moon. Or, Stanley Kubrick's studio in Hollywood where the moon landing was actually filmed.
Yes.
But we'll talk about that another time.
That's just wild to think that this whole thing could be a fucking farce.
I know. I don't think it is, but
I don't either,
It's
but
still kind of funny. So also, Kennedy also established the Peace Corps. He signed an executive order establishing its organization in 1961. 3 days after he did so, they had a director, and within a few more days, the Peace Corps participation exploded, worldwide. He also enacted in 1963 the Equal Pay Act. He signed this as part of his bigger New Frontier for America program. This act made it illegal to pay men and women different wages for the same job. And at the time he signed it, women were being paid about 59 cents for every dollar that a man made.
Yeah.
So,
and productivity.
Fuck him for that.
Yeah, productivity hit an all-time low. Yes, no,
that's a good thing, though. We're just joking.
That is. He did not care what people thought. He did not go along with his party's ideals or anybody else's ideals. If he found this right, he was going to do it. That's what made him such a phenomenal president.
Yeah, definitely respectable.
Horrible husband, but phenomenal president.
Right. 1 month before his assassination, Kennedy signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which prohibited nuclear weapon tests and explosions underwater, in the atmosphere, and in outer space.
Explosions underwater. This did not stop Barbara Bush from farting in the hot tub, but it was a step in the right direction.
And this was the first agreement regarding weaponry during the Cold War. So, unfortunately, the tests and different things have continued, but it still was a big step for him to enact that sort of a treaty. Shortly before his death, Kennedy ordered a naval blockade of Cuba to stop the shipment of offensive weapons to the island, and it was a ring of ships around Cuba. The backstory is that a U.S. intelligence spy plane had secretly been photographing Soviet missile sites being built in Cuba using a spy plane. The United States determined that the missiles could strike major U.S. cities and kill millions of Americans, instantly with nuclear weapons. Kennedy demanded that Cuba remove the missiles being stored there. The Soviets agreed and destroyed the weapon sites in exchange for a promise from the U.S. not to invade Cuba. There is more to this story, but in short, Kennedy's move was praised across the nation. he had ended the missile crisis. Obviously, this was the Bay of Pigs, and it was as close as you can get to nuclear war.
Everybody in that Oval Office, from the FBI and all that, they were yelling at him to hit the fucking button.
Yeah.
Hit it. And he's like, no, I'm not hitting the button. No, we're going to figure something out.
Yeah, so I mean, similar to that Russian guy that we talked about a few episodes back, Kennedy was very instrumental in stopping a large-scale nuclear war. Those are several of John F. Kennedy's more famous things that he did during his presidency. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the assassination day, the actual timeline of it. The assassination occurred in Dealey Plaza, which is a city park in Dallas. Kennedy was riding in his presidential motorcade. 6 people were riding in the Lincoln presidential topless 3-row limousine. That's the way I like my limousines, topless.
Yes.
So to remember who they are, it'll be important later. The people that were in the limo with Kennedy, in the back seat was John and his wife, Jacqueline. In the middle seat was the Texas governor, John Connally, and his wife, Nellie. And in the front seats driving and in the passenger seat was Secret Service agents William Greer and Roy Kellerman. So it's November 22nd, 1963. This was over 6 decades ago now. It's crazy. So, depending on how old you are, your parents might have just been born or were young, or, grandparents might have been in their 30s or 20s. So at 7:23 a.m. that morning, Oswald goes to work at the Texas Book Depository in Dallas. Buell Frazier, who is a coworker, asks Oswald, "Why are you carrying around a long paper-wrapped package?" And Oswald replied to him, "It's just some curtains."
That's like walking to the bathroom when you're like 5 after your grandma gets out of the shower. And you're like, "What's that?" She's like, "Oh, just some curtains."
Yeah, some meat curtains.
Yes.
The old ham wallet.
That's my favorite one. I heard somebody else say like fur burger.
Fur burger and the old squish mitten.
Fur burger is great. Go to Burger King at like 2 a.m. and order that. And you probably get 2 things that you really want.
Yeah, an STD and a burger.
Yes. But you'll eat both. No question. You will.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then at 8:45 a.m., John F. Kennedy speaks at a breakfast in a square across 8th Street. And attendees included members of the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. At 9:10, Kennedy takes his place in the Hotel Texas Grand Ballroom for a scheduled speech. The presidential advisor, Kenny O'Donnell, informs Roy Kellerman, the Secret Service agent in charge of the trip, that the presidential limousine should not be equipped with its bubble top if the weather was clear in Dallas. And unfortunately, the weather was clear that day.
Oh, yeah.
That's 2 big things. You got Oswald walking into work with a fucking gun wrapped up in his curtains, and you got this advisor who said keep the top off if the weather was nice. The guy probably didn't have any idea that John F. Kennedy was going to be murdered that day, but it's still kind of ironic because that top potentially could have saved his life.
Oh, yeah.
So at 10:40, John F. Kennedy's motorcade departs the Hotel Texas for Carswell Air Force Base. At 11:20, Air Force One departs the Air Force Base for Dallas. At 11:30, Air Force One arrives at Love Field in Dallas. At 11:55, the motorcade departs Love Field. And then at 12:29, the motorcade turns right onto Houston Street, entering Dealey Plaza, and the motorcade approaches the Texas School Book Depository. At 12:30, the motorcade takes a sharp 135-degree left turn onto Elm Street, which is a downward sloping road, and there's a giant Hertz rent-a-car clock on top of the depository building that was actually seen by witnesses changing from 12:29 to 12:30 as the limousine turned onto Elm Street. So over the course of the next 5 seconds, 3 shots were fired. The first shot misses. The second shot hits John F. Kennedy in the back and exits through his throat. Governor Connally is also hit. The third shot hits John F. Kennedy in the head, killing him. 30 minutes later, Kennedy was pronounced dead officially.
The plume, the bullet that hit him in the head so bad, it shot out and hit the car behind him where LBJ and Ladybird were.
Right.
You know, like there's that jerk on the highway and he turns on his windshield wiper fluid and just clears it out. I wonder if the driver for LBJ was like, thanks, asshole.
Yeah. What's this pink mist?
Got all pissed.
Yeah.
Wow. Ooh.
So almost immediately, before the dust is even settled and Kennedy's body is cold, people start to disagree on something that should be clear and documented, like the bullet entry. So now we're going to get into some of the insane conspiracy theories. Like we said before, most of these are valid conspiracies. They're not ones that don't make any sense.
Very valid.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to jump right into that.
Who wanted Kennedy dead? First, we'll go the mafia.
A lot of people, but
yeah. The mafia. John F. Kennedy's dad, John, was a big business magnate back in the 30s, even earlier than that. And his dad had close business ties with the mafia, with Prohibition. Mm-hmm. And the deal was if they could influence the Teamsters Union to vote Democrat, maybe the mafia could continue their illegal operation without fear of persecution.
Yep.
And it worked for Kennedy, not for the mafia. Kennedy won the presidency by 118,550 votes out of 69 million total votes. That's insanely close.
Yeah, I mean, 118,000 is not a lot.
Yeah, like Trump beat Kamala in just one state by more than just that.
Right.
This is the whole thing.
Right.
It is factually known that dead people voted, and there are lots of repeat voters, too, that voted for Kennedy. So, John is president, and he appoints his brother, Robert, as attorney general to crack down on organized crime. And Robert eviscerates the hell out of the mafia with the full weight of the Justice Department. It's a fact that the CIA and the mafia work together to orchestrate assassination plots, such as the ones against Castro and other political figures.
Yeah.
So why not JFK?
Yeah. I mean, the mafia had all kinds of motive, right? I mean, their livelihood was being wrecked by the Justice Department.
Yeah, not only could they not do their business, the racketeering and all that, they got little Bobby just killing them. I mean, just dismantling the entire mafia.
Right.
Crippling them financially. So they're like, okay, all right, we can do this.
Yeah.
The next one would be maybe Fidel Castro for the repeated assassination plots.
Yeah, I can't believe how many times they've tried to off him. And, he just recently, I mean, in the last few years, died.
Yeah. This dude outlived 9 U.S. presidents.
Yeah.
He's like that very rich uncle that has you as his lone beneficiary but won't fucking die. So you keep sending everybody you know with COVID over to visit him.
Yeah.
Kiss him on the lips. Make sure you get him on the lips.
Right.
Also, the Bay of Pigs to overthrow Fidel Castro's regime.
Right.
Fidel wasn't having that.
Right.
At all.
No.
Well, the Bay of Pigs, that sounds like if the cast of The View went down to Miami for the spring break. I just have to throw that in there. Fuck The View. You have to do that all the time.
Yes,
absolutely. But I can see Castro being pissed.
Yeah, I mean, if you try to you come to kill me, like I don't know why the CIA was always so unsuccessful, but they were, and they never were able to get him.
I wonder if he had a taste tester try his food.
Oh, I bet he did. I know like Saddam Hussein did.
Really?
Yeah.
He has to just be paranoid. So, the next one is the CIA and the government and the FBI and the military-industrial complex.
Yep.
No question it was these fucks.
Yeah, very clear evidence that could point towards this, yes.
Oh, yeah. Because Kennedy chose peace over war, and that made him enemy number one for the government because he wanted no part in invading Cuba, Vietnam. He wanted to end the Cold War with Russia. But war was the biggest business in the USA. Even back then, it was $80 billion a year. Back in the early 60s.
Yeah, I mean, war has always been big business, and he was fucking with it.
Yep. And then the Bay of Pigs was such a huge public failure, making Kennedy look weak, and he didn't like it. Kennedy didn't want a part of it, and he was kind of convinced to do it. So Kennedy looks like an idiot to the whole world. So what does he do? He fires the head of the CIA, Allen Dulles.
Yeah.
And that's never happened before, ever.
No, and the CIA is scary.
Oh, yeah.
They're scary.
Oh, yeah. I'm afraid doing this podcast.
Yeah, me too. They're going to put a hit out on us.
Yes.
I'll protect you guys.
And Kennedy was on record saying, I will splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are bold words even from a president, because the CIA will fuck you up.
Yeah, just like Vietnam.
Yeah.
Vietnam was messed up. I have not seen, what is that movie you want me to see so bad?
Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now. Yes, I haven't seen that yet, but like the Agent Orange just being dumped everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is the same spray tan setting Trump uses. Agent Orange. Yes.
So next we're going to talk about the most famous suspect. He was involved.
Oh, yeah.
But to what extent, we're going to get into it. And that is Lee Harvey Oswald. So just going to talk about a few things about him. He was a Marine Corps veteran, and he was the prime suspect in this assassination. He didn't have a very good childhood. He was a juvenile delinquent. He was placed in juvenile detention at age 12 for truancy. He was assessed by a psychiatrist as emotionally disturbed due to a lack of normal family life. I don't know what that means exactly. So at 17, he joined the Marine Corps. His primary training was as a radar operator, which required a security clearance, which is kind of funny that this guy, who eventually will go on to shoot at the president at least, had a security clearance. In 1957, he was granted the clearance to handle classified matters up to and including confidential. So remember this, he wasn't a rifleman. He was a radar operator. So he wasn't... All Marines are riflemen is what is the saying. But this guy didn't do it every day. It wasn't his everyday life in the military.
When he defected to Russia, of course, he thought he would get away from America because he didn't like American values, which is horse shit. He went to Russia for a deeper reason. Never, even the Americans, one of their planes was taken down, some secret code. And they're like, never ever in the history has that ever happened. How did this plane get taken down? Somebody must have known a secret code. They must have cracked it. How did Russia do it? It's like,
Yeah. The radar operator.
Yep. The same time he moves to Russia.
With the security clearance, right.
Yep. Exactly.
Just to give you a kind of an idea of how he wasn't a great shot. But if we're to believe that he was the one that shot Kennedy, he would have to have been extremely fucking lucky or an extremely good shot. In 1956, he scored a 212 on his marksmanship test, which put him about at the requirements as a sharpshooter. 300 is the highest score, and that's a designation of expert. I was an expert, by the way.
Yes.
In 1959, he scored a 191, which is even worse. And that reduced him down to a rating of marksman, which is the lowest possible rating that you can get. So again, remember this, he was not a good shot, and he made a ridiculously good shot according to the narrative of the government.
With a shit gun.
Yeah.
That is known for not being able to be accurate.
Yeah, I mean, it cost like less than $20, this rifle, and it wasn't a good rifle at all. So further, his troubles continued, and he was court-martialed twice. One time for shooting himself with the .22 caliber handgun. Wow. Don't know the details of that. This guy was just a fucking idiot.
Yes.
So he shot himself with the handgun. A second time that he was court-martialed was for fighting with the sergeant that he thought was responsible for his punishment. So he shoots himself with the fucking gun. He gets punished, and then he gets in a fight with the guy who got him into trouble. And then he was punished a third time. It wasn't a court-martial. It was probably just like an Article 15, which is just like a stern warning. While he was on a nighttime sentry duty in the Philippines, he fired a shot into the fucking jungle.
What an idiot. This guy's dumb forever.
Yeah. So then in 1959, he received a hardship discharge from active duty. He claimed that his mother needed care and he needed to get out. So shortly after this, I guess his mother didn't need all that much care because he defected to the Soviet Union and married a Russian woman and had a daughter. Then in 1962, so a few years later, he returned to the United States with his wife and settled in Dallas, Texas.
Huh.
Yeah, where their second daughter was born. So a little bit about the rifle that Oswald had. It was purchased by him in 1963. He actually used an alias to purchase it. And Alex Heidel, is that how you say it? Heidel?
Yeah. Yep.
Heidel. He purchased this a mail order. It was secondhand, and it was a piece of shit Italian rifle that cost $19.95 American and $1.50 shipping. And all rifle experts will agree that this was a poorly made rifle. So in the Warren Commission, which we'll get into the Warren Commission a little bit later here, this commission concluded that Oswald made at least one other attempt at assassinating someone. So he attempted to kill a retired U.S. Major General, that's a 2-star general. His name was Edwin Walker on April 10th of 1963. Now get this shit. Oswald fires through a window less than 100 feet away from Walker, who was sitting unmoving at his desk. And the bullet hits the window frame. It doesn't even hit Walker. The bullet explodes or whatever, and just some fragments hit him on the forearm.
100 feet away.
So he was 100 feet away. He missed, but we're supposed to believe that this shitty-ass marksman was able to hit a moving target at 265 feet. I don't know about that.
No way.
No
Did you
way.
hear how we were talking about people being executed trial by fire?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could pick who you wanted.
That's who you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No question. Heck yes. Don't need a blindfold. Don't even need to move.
Right. He's going to miss
Totally.
with his shitty-ass rifle.
What an idiot.
What an idiot. So Walker, he was kind of an asshole. He was an outspoken anti-communist segregationalist, which is just a fancy way of saying he was racist. And he was relieved of his command for distributing right-wing literature to his troops. In 1964, the Warren Commission concluded that Oswald acted alone in carrying out the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and that is fucking wrong.
All right, let me get this straight. He gets discharged. He defects to Russia, our biggest nuclear war threat,
Yep.
our biggest enemy, then moves back to the U.S. No questions, just come back to the U.S. He had a visa within 24 hours. He had a personal loan within 24 hours. They literally walked him. First of all, wouldn't you say, oh, where are you from? Oh,
Yeah.
from Russia?
You just came from where?
We're going to look into that.
Yeah. So
Then
he had some help.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't just someone was helping him.
Even before, so then he moves to Dallas.
Yep.
And then he does these rallies for Castro in New Orleans in 1963, handing out flyers,
Yep.
trying to help out Cuba. Then in September 1963, he goes to Mexico City, visiting the Soviet and Cuban embassies. He tries to get a visa to move to Cuba,
Yeah.
to defect to Cuba. Leaves Mexico City in October 1963, and then kills the president in November 1963.
Yep. Lots going
Yeah.
on there.
It sounds like they walked him through everything.
Yeah.
Be here and do this, and be here and do this. It was, oh yeah, he was a huge part of it.
Yeah,
But-
and all those things he did, going to those rallies, that makes him seem more like a type of person that would want to kill a president, who was against communism and who was against these wars and different things.
Oh yeah, big time. But I can't see him. There's no way he shot.
Oh yeah, no,
I can see he shot at all day.
He shot at him, sure, but I don't believe for a second that his shots killed him.
And many witnesses heard a lot more than 3 pops.
Yep.
A lot more.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and we'll get into that here shortly, but yeah, for sure.
yes. Well, let's talk about the man, Kennedy. So now I just want to touch base on the most important thing and what the Pope loved the most about Kennedy.
Yeah.
Kennedy was a whore.
Yeah, that's why the Pope wanted him dead.
Yes, because he got more pull than him. Yes. They had like a fucking tally going on. Kennedy had to tell him, nope, no boys, no underage boys. We're talking
It
women.
doesn't count. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
got to
it
be adult girls. It's got to be adult girls, Pope.
Yes, I know you like to eat brownies, but it's no surprise he slept with everybody. All of the staff of the White House, even LBJ, even Lyndon got it. It's probably why his pants looked so baggy all the time. He was trying to hide the diaper he had to wear to catch all the blood coming out of his ass. He had a press secretary, for real, he slept with in the first 3 minutes of meeting her. Seriously. His dick was out of his pants more than it was in. He slept with 2 cabinet members at the same time.
Man.
The nickname Fiddle and Faddle by the Secret Service.
Nice.
That sounds like what they would name Lady Bird Johnson's butt cheeks when she farts. It sounds like the start of a Dr. Seuss poem. Let's try one. Fiddle and Faddle made a rattle so loud it made the children shout. Then Fiddle and Faddle had to skedaddle because the stench made everybody puke their fucking guts out.
Yes.
Why are we not writing children's books?
We should.
Good grief.
Yeah. We should just make a YouTube channel and just write crazy, stupid shit.
We can make a killing off pedophiles. I have a book called Good Touch, Better Touch. And that's it. There's no bad touch. All right, anyway, when Eisenhower gave JFK advice on being president, he told him, pour yourself into the people. But he wasn't talking about using his dick. Like, come on, Jack. Dial it back. FBI director, and this is for real, FBI director J. Edgar Hoover had so much dirt on JFK's adultery, like JFK slept with a Soviet intelligence agent and an East German spy, and her name is Ellen Romesh. This would have crippled JFK's image, so the deal was, to keep Hoover quiet, JFK could never fire him, and JFK needs to start having sex with Hoover's wife, too. Somebody has to.
Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover, he was, like, notorious for, like, cross-dressing or some shit, wasn't he?
I heard about that, yeah. I've never seen the movie JFK.
Yeah.
But I heard, he was all weird.
So JFK
like
probably had some dirt on him, too, so it's like a mutual, probably, thing.
Heck yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the next topic we should talk about is the bullets.
Yeah.
Most claim that the second bullet entered the upper right back and exited the front of the throat on JFK. The third bullet entered the right rear of the head near the cowlick and exited the right side of JFK's head.
Right.
This bullet caused a massive wound to the head and was fatal. Governor Connolly was hit by the second bullet through his back just past his nipple. Good thing he took out his piercings that morning. Yes. And then this bullet went through his wrist and then put on his turn signal and merged left into his leg. This is the magic bullet theory.
Yeah, this one's a little out there.
Seriously, the worthless Warren Commission stated that this single bullet went through Kennedy's neck, then Connolly's chest and wrist and left thigh. That's 7 entry-exit wounds.
Yeah.
They did the math. This bullet had to go through, first of all, a back brace that Kennedy was wearing, and I'll tell you more about this back brace.
Yeah. I didn't know that he anything about this.
Oh,
but
yeah, his back was horrible. 15 layers of clothing, 7 layers of skin, 15 inches of muscle, then smashing through 4 inches of Connolly's rib and radius bone. And this bullet had less scrape marks than if you asked Stephen Hawkins to scratch your back. For real. Magic bullet. The only magic bullet in that car was in Governor Connolly's wife's purse that she was going to use later that night. Wink, wink. So, what's weird is that the limo driver, Cooper, I can't believe this limo driver waited 5 seconds between the second and the third shot. Almost like he's giving these shooters a chance to really get the kill.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. And they slowed down. He slowed down, right, in the limo.
Completely slowed down.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. Now, Kennedy's last words were, "No, they sure can't." And that was when he was asked, "Can anybody stop you from fucking their wife?" No, they sure can't.
They sure can't.
No, actually, this is in response to Governor Connolly's wife, Nellie, actually saying to Mr. President, "Mr. President, you certainly can't say Dallas doesn't love you." And then he goes, "No, they sure can't."
And then he gets shot in the fucking head.
They show him how much we love you. Pop, pop.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. So, the next one is the hospital. This Parkland Memorial Hospital, Cooper. The whole thing just blows my mind. And I researched more and more, and the more I research, I'm just like, there's no way.
Yeah, it's the whole thing was messy. Go ahead.
They want it messy.
Yeah.
Somebody want it messy so they can just make it all go away.
Yep.
At the hospital, reporters, right when this limo pulled up, reporters noticed a bullet hole through the front of the limo windshield. That's hard to say.
It is hard.
Yeah. FBI agent Charles Taylor and a Dallas cop named Steve Ellis saw it too, stating you could put a pencil through the hole and they had bullet fragments all around it. Mm-hmm. Now, the Secret Service saw this. They're pretty much putting their finger through the hole.
Yeah.
Some Secret Servicemen saw this, got in the car, and immediately drove off so fast. There was a reporter leaned against the car at the time. She almost fell down.
Wow.
They got that car the fuck out of there as soon as they could.
So this is saying possibly that the shot could have come from the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so confusing because they're all saying, the shots came from the back, and if it went to the back through Kennedy's head, it might have went through the front. But the bullet fragments were coming on the inside of the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the outside of the car.
Yep.
So then when Kennedy entered the hospital, Dr. McClelland and Dr. Perry took over. The first thing Dr. McClelland said was, "My God, have you seen the back of his head?" Kennedy was still breathing because the medulla part of his brain that controls breathing was still intact. He was making gasping and agonal attempts at breathing, the same way you would when you accidentally walk in the bathroom after your Uncle Dale. And everybody has an Uncle Dale. He stops you, puts his hands on your shoulders. "I'm sorry." That's not good. So when the doctors moved his head, part of his brain fell out on the table through the gaping hole in the back of his head. Cooper, this hole was 5 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could have birthed Shaq through that. For real.
Have you seen Shaq's mom? She probably has a blown out vagina.
Yeah. We're not supposed to say fuck or blown out vagina. Or I guess that's it for right now.
That's it for now. We'll get more, I'm sure.
Doctors, when they saw the brain falling out, doctors still thought they could save him because being a Democrat, he didn't need all of his brain. We could save this fucker. So Dr. McClelland made it clear that the bullet entrance wound came from the front of his head.
Yeah.
And when Dr. Perry concluded the same statement, people that looked like Secret Servicemen told Dr. Perry, pulled him aside and told him these exact words, and McClelland heard it too.
Okay.
"You must never ever say that was an entrance wound if you know what's good for you." Perry, Dr. Perry, later that year, after the whole thing went down, he left the hospital and the entire state of Texas in fear for his life, which we'll talk later about. A lot of people were in fear for their life.
Yeah.
So immediately after Kennedy is pronounced dead, these same men stopped McClelland from going to the morgue, which that's what you're supposed to do next.
Yeah, by law, right?
By law.
Like
to do an autopsy.
They needed to do an autopsy in the state where he was killed.
By law.
Right.
They told Dr. McClelland to step aside. Then they propped Kennedy up against the wall. They picked him up and shoved his dead body against the wall and then lifted him and got the fuck out of there.
So the Secret Servicemen just grab him and they're heading back to D.C.
Yep. They knew when he's dead, we got to get this body out of here. So nobody can match up the bullet hole entrance wounds and exit wounds. There will be no autopsy here.
Right.
What's wild is when Dr. Perry and Dr. McClelland were working on Kennedy, Jackie walked in the room covered with brain matter and blood. Not the last time a president will explode on a woman's dress. Thank you, Clinton. Yeah. And she's holding pieces of JFK's skull and brain that she pulled out of her pocket.
Yeah.
That's what she was doing when she was trying to get out of the car during the shooting. It looked like she's trying to climb out of the car.
Yeah.
No, she's picking up parts of his skull and brain.
Yeah, so when you see her in the video, she, where it looks like she's trying to jump out or like climb on the back, she was actually just trying to grab parts of his head and brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I never knew that.
So she walks into this room. They're working on him. They set a tracheotomy in. They're trying to do whatever they can to keep him alive and see what happens.
Yeah.
She pulls out of her pockets chunks of his skull and gives it to the doctors. Yeah, I would have loved it if the doctors were like, there it is. That's what we were looking for. All better now. Wow.
Right. Yeah.
I bet after that, everybody in the whole Kennedy family was thinking during Thanksgiving, I wonder what that bitch is going to bring to the potluck. It better not be a part of John again. So no, before they took him away from the trauma room, Jackie kissed his foot. The only one Dr. McClelland was there. Everybody else left the room immediately.
Yeah.
So
this is weird, yeah.
First of all, she takes his ring off and puts it on her, and she takes her ring off and puts it on him.
Oh, that's weird too.
Yes.
Okay.
But the cock ring is still intact. They didn't mess with that at all. So anyway, no, in real life, for real, she kissed his foot, his leg, his thigh. She kissed his dick, for real. I found that out.
Yeah.
Kissed his chest and then his face. And I'm thinking, how does something so beautiful kiss something so dead? That's like Matthew McConaughey doing a soft porn with Nancy Pelosi. My goodness. Imagine being her grandkids. Okay, guys, we're leaving. Give Grandma a kiss goodbye. No. Why? That's your grandmother. Because her breath smells like a dead dick. So this McClelland doctor worked on JFK Friday. And then he worked on Oswald Sunday when Oswald was killed.
Right.
But his favorite murder he vividly remembers is the one he did on his wife's ass Saturday morning.
Yeah. Yeah, he tore that ass right up.
And you're right. This, like you just said, the Secret Service broke the law that day. It states if a murder happens in that state, the autopsy has to be done in that same state.
Yeah, the murder obviously happened in Texas. The doctors were going to do the autopsy, but the Secret Service grabs them, and they just head back to D.C., right?
Yep, they hide all of it. And this is the start of the cover-up.
Yep.
The notes the coroner made and the photos all went missing. And when Sandra Spencer, she was a lady that processed the autopsy pictures at the Naval Central Photo Lab.
Yeah.
She was in a 1997 deposition. She was asked when they showed the pictures, do you remember these? And she goes, those are not the pictures I processed.
So the information that the government is, supposedly releasing, even now, they're saying that 99% of the assassination information is public information. It's most likely what they want us to know, what they think goes along with their narrative, and it's most likely bullshit.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, this is my favorite one. The Warren Commission.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. For those of you who don't know, this was an investigation by the U.S. government, who's very trustworthy and very loyal.
Yeah, they're always looking out for our best interests.
Always. The U.S. government had 7 members going over the evidence, and to add to more conspiracy, Hoover, who hated the Kennedys, Robert and John F. Kennedy, appointed Alan Dulles as the head of the operation. This is the same guy JFK fired for the Bay and Pigs embarrassment.
Yep.
That's like getting fired from Subway because you were mashing your dick in the subs to push the toppings down, and then the cops hire you to investigate it.
That's awesome.
That's
though.
exactly.
That's what you want.
This was the biggest joke of an investigation in the history of ever. They stated that Oswald acted alone. There were only 3 shots fired in total, and the magic bullet theory was very true.
Oh my God, yeah.
There are seriously taped phone conversations between Hoover and Lyndon B. Johnson, making it very clear that the people must accept all of this to be true, and there's no other killer except for Oswald. They said this before the investigation was even finished. They were on the phone as people were investigating.
Jeez, yeah.
The FBI destroyed evidence that Oswald visited Dulles' FBI office 2 days before killing Kennedy. He left a note threatening the FBI, saying he's going to destroy them if they don't leave his wife alone, and many other things. Special Agent Hosty received the note, and he was told to destroy it.
Yeah.
Then when he mentioned it to the Warren Commission, they didn't give a shit.
They didn't include it, didn't care.
Didn't care at all.
Yeah.
Did you know Oliver Stone made the film JFK as a big fuck you to the Warren Commission?
Yeah, I've heard that. I think you might have told me that before we were talking about this, but yeah.
I watched the interview of him, and he pointed out all the things the Warren Commission omitted or ignored. Like every credible witness that said they heard a shot and saw smoke from behind the fence in the grassy knoll. Sidebar, the grassy knoll is probably what JFK called Lady Bird's taint. Heckling poor Lyndon B. Johnson. He probably called him Lindsay. Yeah, Lindsay, every Sunday I like to shoot my load from the grassy knoll. So I guess Lyndon got the last laugh. I'll shoot you from the fucking grassy knoll.
Right.
More facts. Officers Blankenship, Harkness, Smith, and Deputy Mabras all said that they ran up the hill when the shooting was going on, only to be confronted by Secret Servicemen that already had their guns pointed out at them, telling them to go the other way. Yeah, and the other thing is Deputy Mabras was looking at these Secret Servicemen, I'm going to air quote that.
Yes.
And their hands were all greasy and gross like an auto mechanic's.
The thought with that is that they were just dudes that they like, hey, throw this suit on and try to look official.
Yeah.
Why
would you have your guns out way before?
Yeah.
Fact, they've looked at the logs and the notes. The Secret Service was not stationed in that area that day.
Right. And by the grassy knoll.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Others, like onlookers like Bill Newman, Charles Brand, and Emmett Hudson, all claim the same story and hopped behind the fence only to find muddy footprints behind the fence of where the grassy knoll shooting was taking place.
Yeah.
Nobody's allowed back there at the time. So
Right.
there can't be any muddy footprints.
There shouldn't be. Right.
Yep. And Bill Bowers guy, I love this guy. He had balls of steel. He was adamant, and there's video of him. He's adamant he saw 2 cars circling the railroad lot behind the fence. No cars were allowed to drive back there due to security reasons. They had it all shut off. He saw a flashlight from a gun and a smoke that came from the gun.
Right.
And he refused to recant his story, even though many people told him to, and others did recant the story like, oh, maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't. Well, he died in 1966 when his car hit a concrete bridge embankment.
Wow.
Yeah. And witnesses saw a car speeding away from the scene of the crime.
Yeah, because they just cut his brake lines or some shit.
Yes. All of these incidents I just told you about were reported the day of the shooting, and the Warren Commission ignored every single one.
Yeah.
Oswald's gun, that thing was handled by every fucking person in the precinct.
Oh yeah, there's video of it, like the guys holding it up,
Like
and
the
like everyone's
Stanley
like,
Cup trophy, just hoisting the damn thing.
Yeah,
And then they say they have a palm print that matches Oswald's.
sure.
I wouldn't be shocked if they found OJ's prints on that damn gun.
they probably did.
Then Arnold Rowland stated that minutes before the shooting, he looked up at the book depository and asked his wife if she wanted to see a Secret Serviceman, all happy and jolly about it, because he saw a rifle sticking out of the window. That was ignored by the Warren Commission, which shocks me because that's their boy. That's their Oswald.
So an interesting thing about snipers is this is further proof that Oswald was a fucking dipshit. They don't fire with their gun hanging out the window, because that gives away their position.
Oh.
If they're in a room like that, they're standing back away from the opening. You don't want to hang your fucking rifle out the window.
Yes.
Everyone will see it.
It's like standing like 6 feet behind the urinals. So
Yeah.
we see your dick.
Yeah, so like that just kind of sort of proves further that Oswald didn't know what the fuck he was doing and couldn't have acted alone.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah.
So every person stating they saw a puff of smoke from behind the fence was asked to circle the exact spot they saw it. Every single one circled the exact same spot next to the exact same tree.
Yep.
That evidence was ignored.
Completely ignored. Yep.
If the Warren Commission was in charge of O.J. Simpson's investigation, they would have come up with James Earl Jones did it.
Yeah.
An idiot. So everybody on the bridge to the left of the grassy knoll saw a black car circling the lot behind the fence, which you're not allowed to be back there behind the railroad fence.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's probably Hasselhoff in the Knight Rider.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
That was a cool car.
It was. The Germans love Hasselhoff too.
Yes. It had that red light that would go from, on the front, that would go from side to side. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if women had to wear a headband like that when they're on their period, so we knew.
So just so you know.
Yes. Hasselhoff had that thick-ass chest hair.
Yep.
If he fell asleep drunk and a cigarette fell in that forest of seduction shit, the fire department would have to call in backup from other counties. Have to tell California to back off. We have a bigger problem.
Yeah.
I bet on his nipples they have a Smokey the Bear sign letting you know if the fire danger is low, medium, or high. You could probably find missing children in there. So right when I heard about John Benet Ramsey missing, I thought, head east of Hasselhoff's right pec. She'll be there.
She'll be in there.
So the Warren Commission was finished. They gave the book to LBJ in 1964. It's a huge-ass book.
Yep.
And on the front cover, it said, Bobby's next.
Yep. And he was.
So if you take a picture, if you look at the picture, they even look stupid as fuck when they handed this book to Lyndon B. Johnson. Mm-hmm. For real. You know how you're asked in class to do a 7-page report and have it double-spaced with the cover letter wrapped inside a protective folder, and you just play fucking video games all weekend, so you stumbled into class and you got like 3 sticky notes with your name all crumpled up.
That's what the Warren Commission looked like. Yeah.
That's exactly what those fucking idiots look like.
Yep.
Big time. The next one I want to touch base on is LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yep.
This crooked motherfucker was so much a part of all this. He pushed for war and hated the idea of pulling out of Vietnam. In a time where people had like 5 kids, the only thing he wanted to pull out was his wife. Hence the 2 wobbly-legged, weird-ass kids he had. The whole family walked like newborn giraffes. I don't know if you ever seen them like walking through the White House. It's like, do you give them the lettuce? What the fuck's wrong with these weirdos? And he hated the Kennedys. He hated all of them. He would fight with Robert all the time. He definitely hated John F. Kennedy, this new, charming up-and-comer who could dethrone him from his chance to be president. Then he had to play second fiddle to him as vice president. Had to be embarrassing.
Yeah.
But it's weird, you know, he got dethroned and embarrassed, and vice presidents were nothings back then. I mean, pretty much get me a Coke, Lyndon. So I guarantee you he had a plot and a plan the whole time. Like, oh, I'll play vice president, so when you're fucking gone, I get what I want. I can become that. He rejoiced when the shots started coming in Dealey Plaza, the same way we all rejoice when that asshole on the highway is driving erratically on your bumper and you see him up the road pulled over by the cops.
That is a good feeling.
Oh, yeah. Rumor has it this man was hung. Need people to know that.
He had a giant penis.
Yeah, like his middle name
to use
wasn't...
the parlance of our time.
His middle name wasn't Baines, it was Big. Lyndon Big Johnson. When he was sworn in as president on Air Force One, the judge, Sarah Hughes, rested the Bible on his bulge. Every time he coughed, the pages would turn automatically. He was so hung, I bet he had to use a Remax chute for a condom. So when he was done making love to Lady Bird, it probably looked like a fucking balloon crash. The Battle of the Bulge had nothing to do with that. It was just him trying to pull his khakis over his mound of meat.
Yeah.
My goodness. When they mention Midway, they're not thinking about war. They're explaining the distance LBJ can enter Lady Bird before serious internal bleeding occurs. I bet he has to put it in a Cobra basket when he goes to bed. If Lady Bird wants some, she just pulls out the old flesh flute and gets that thing going. This dude was hung. The best thing I love is Lyndon Johnson's wife. I love that her name was Lady Bird.
Yes.
That wasn't a pet nickname. It was just that her pubic hair was so thick and matted, it looked like a fucking eagle's nest down there. Full of twigs and pine cones,
Yeah.
hypodermic needles, and tattered plastic Dollar General bags. I wish Playboy would have done a centerfold of her nude with a bald eagle feeding her young in that hot air balloon basket she calls a crotch. How American would that be?
Yeah.
Poor Lyndon Johnson probably couldn't even sleep with the sound of birds chirping from her fucking eagle's nest crotch all night long. He's laying in bed, he's all... It's like, man, poor bastard.
So the big thing about LBJ is, he may not have been responsible, but he also didn't give a shit if Kennedy died.
No, not at all.
He was pro-war, and he never liked the guy either. So, yeah.
He was sweating on Air Force One from holding back his smirk and his smile like,
Yeah, he probably was.
Christmas came again. This is the best thing ever. My goodness.
Yeah. So the most famous video footage of this whole event was shot by a gentleman named Abraham Zapruder. You can watch the video. It's on YouTube. That is the most famous one. It shows a lot of detail. Unedited version. You can see Kennedy's head blow up, essentially.
Boom.
Yeah.
Whoever plotted this assassination shit when they found out, oh, there's a video of this?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, because this was a homemade video. Like, this wasn't like an official, even a news video. It was just some guy that happened to have a camcorder.
Yeah, and if you look at his head, man, all that poof is coming right from the back.
Yeah.
Which completely states there's no way Oswald's direction
From
could have done this.
from where he was positioned, right?
Yeah.
So some alleged that there were upwards of 103 suspicious deaths from the time Kennedy died over the next several years. Many of them were witnesses or reporters. Some of them included Oswald, obviously, who was... He even claimed, he's like, I'm a patsy, in video. He probably really was. He was, I think.
Yeah, he was part of it, yeah, because he shot that cop, too.
Yeah.
He shoots at the president and then runs out of there. He was running down the steps. A lot of people might not know this. He was running down the steps to get the fuck out of that book depository.
Yeah.
And he ran into his boss and a cop, and the cop grabbed him.
Yeah.
He was like, what are you doing? And the boss was like, he's fine, he works here. And that's when he got out and then took a bus to a cab, and then that cop, J.D. Tippit, saw him and thought he was acting suspicious.
I think he was picked up relatively quickly, but like 90 minutes or something after the Kennedy was shot.
He's confronted by this J.D. Tippit, and he unloads in J.D. Tippit.
Yeah.
4 or 5 shots, kills him dead, goes into a shoe store looking all weird, and then walks across the street to the movie theater.
Yeah.
Doesn't pay. Yeah, so.
Probably shot him with the same .22 he shot himself with. He's like, oh, it's probably not going to kill him. It didn't kill me.
What I love is the cops, a guy called the cops and said, that weird guy's in the movie theater. So the cops come in there, they find him. The movie that's being played at the time is called War is Hell.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what Lyndon and the government wants to do, is go to fucking war, which is kind of ironic and weird.
Right.
But they confronted him. He goes to pull his gun out to shoot the cops, and he starts swinging at him, and the cops just beat the shit out of him.
Yep.
And then they brought him out.
Some other people that were killed were a reporter named Bill Hunter, Jack Ruby's first attorney, who was Tom Howard.
That's shady.
Yes.
Like you knew a little too much.
Yep. Gary Underhill, Grant Stockdale, and Mary Sherman. So yeah, over the years, people have wanted more information on this. They've wanted documentation. other than the Warren Commission. So for the first time in 2017, there were some major releases. In 2023, the White House announced that 99% of the assassination files had been released. Still not a lot of evidence in those files that point to anything other than what we already know.
Yeah, no. There's also a news reporter, a very respected and successful news reporter named Dorothy Kilgallen. She was a huge journalist, and she dove very deep into this JFK conspiracy. She got a copy of the Warren Commission before anybody else did, and she started going through the whole thing, and she pointed out all the holes in it. The FBI visited her when she made her little thing about, she wrote on all the things that were messed up with it and how this doesn't make sense. They visited her and want to know how she got a hold of this Warren Commission this early.
Right, yep.
And she told her friend, last thing she told her friend was, I'm about to crack this case wide open in 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. She was found dead. Yep.
Of course.
She overdosed on barbiturates and alcohol. Yeah. You can get the same.
No history of drug or alcohol abuse
at all
probably either, right? Yeah.
And people that knew her, she was dressed up to the nines. She had her nice clothes on, her makeup. Everybody knew her, knew that she was a stickler. If I'm in bed, all the makeup's gone, and I have my pajamas on, I never get in this bed dressed like that.
Fully dressed, right.
Top of it, her husband cheated on her in that bed, so she never slept in that bed for years.
Yeah, that was like a thing with her. So to find her in it was very suspicious.
Yeah. Also, she interviewed Ruby.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of her notes that she wrote about the Warren Commission and everything, they're gone. They all disappeared. And she had some solid gold.
Yeah, it's interesting to think what she had.
They found 20 pills worth of sleeping pills in her body, barbiturates, and alcohol. And if you want the same thing, you can go to Starbucks and ask for the Philip Seymour Hoffman. They'll hook you up.
Oh, damn.
Yes. But yeah, another guy, a Jim Cothy, is a journalist that knew too much. He was karate chopped in the throat to death by a home intruder.
Of course he was.
So my first thought is, where are you, Steven Seagal? Where were you on the night of...
The CIA hired him to under siege his ass.
Yeah. Well, he has Russian ties.
Yeah, he does.
I didn't think about that.
I don't know I think he is Russian. He's friends with Putin. Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, there's pictures of them together. And like
they're bunk bed pals.
Yeah, they're friends.
Heck yes. Another thing about Dorothy Kilgallen. Another crazy thing about her. When they did the autopsy on her body, it was signed off by a Dr. DeMeo. Dr. DeMeo wasn't there. He wasn't there for a whole month. So how the fuck does he sign off something he's not there for?
So someone just forged his signature.
Totally forged it.
Yeah.
That's just one of so many.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on for hours on other conspiracies. So in 2023, new doubt was cast on the Warren Commission, just in case there wasn't enough doubt on it already, with the publication of the book The Final Witness, a Kennedy secret agent breaks his silence after 60 years. And this was written by Paul Landis. Paul was a Secret Service agent assigned to protect Jacqueline Kennedy that day, and he was the one riding on the bumper of the car that was following the presidential limousine. So Paul was traumatized by this assassination, and he actually quit the Secret Service several months later after Kennedy's death. In 2014, he read a book about the event and realized that he held key pieces of information that no one knew about. The Warren Commission's conclusions were partially based on the discovery of the magic bullet that was actually found on Connolly's stretcher on his way to the hospital.
It sounds like he just emptied his pockets on the fucking stretcher. What else did he leave on the stretcher? A Chippendales U.S. Tour pamphlet, semen-stained Chuck E. Cheese coins, maybe a locket of Lady Bird's pubes he rubs for good luck.
Yeah.
He's just emptying everything he's got in his fucking pockets on this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So Landis claimed that after the First Lady left the limousine at the hospital, he found the bullet laying on top of the back of the seat of the car. And seeking to prevent it from falling into the hands of a scavenger, he put it in his pocket and brought it into the hospital, and without telling anyone, put it on the president's stretcher, irrationally thinking that would be the best place for investigators to find it.
No, that was set up. He did that on purpose to throw people for a loop, to make it all a mystery and just make it all crazy. And then years later, when he's in the clear, I'm holding on to a... Come on, he's an idiot.
The most famous bullet in the fucking world. So his account was dismissed by skeptics. They saw his failure to report this at the time that it happened is pretty sketchy, which it is.
Very sketchy.
Yeah, and for those who found it credible, the information suggested that the bullet in question had struck Kennedy in the back and then became dislodged rather than penetrating his neck and hitting Connolly. If true, some argued that this interpretation indicated that Connolly would have had to have been hit by another bullet, once again raising the possibility of a second shooter. So, yeah.
Totally. Did you know that Kennedy's brain came up missing from the National Archives in 1963? They put it in a jar, preserved it in formalin, and then in 1965, Bobby, his brother, received it in a locked chest. Then in 1966, Dr. Cyril Wecht noticed that it was gone. So who did it? They said it's in one of two places. Bobby, his brother, destroyed it, or somebody got rid of it because it may have shown proof of a bullet coming through the front of the skull.
Yeah, that seems more likely.
My first thought was check Jackie's pockets.
Yeah,
she's
just carrying
She
it
has
around.
a history of putting nasty shit in there. So.
She's just carrying it around.
Kennedy was jacked. This dude had horrible health.
Yeah.
And I was trying to tell other people about this, and they were like shocked. His back was so bad on the day of the assassination, he had a canvas-laced steel back brace on that went up to his chest.
Yeah.
It was wrapped with 6-inch ace bandages that wrapped around his torso, his thighs, and then back around his shoulders. So when he got shot in the neck, if he wasn't wearing that brace, they thought he would have fallen over and they wouldn't have got a headshot. But him being in that thing, he was like
it
a
held
sitting
him.
duck.
It held him up.
Yup.
Yeah.
This dude had Addison's disease, horrendous stomach pain. He had severe diarrhea for a lot of his life. It actually ended up being IBS, irritable bowel syndrome now, as they call it. He had insane high blood cholesterol. If you're like a 200 or 300, that's he was 400 at one time.
400?
400. It was absurd. Yes.
You wouldn't think that to look at the guy.
No. He had a metal plate fused in his back in 1954, 5 botched back surgeries.
Yikes.
He had scarlet fever as a kid, cat scratch fever as a president. Yes.
Yes.
Before every speech he did, they would do injections of Procaine in his back so he could stand up and walk a little bit better. He took Demerol, Methadone. He took those 2 for pain. He took barbiturates to sleep. He was on anti-anxiety pills, codeine. He was on Ritalin as a stimulant to wake up a little bit. He was taking certain steroids for his Addison's disease, antibiotics for a urinary tract infection, and whatever else he got from everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
He was doing thyroid hormonal injections, blood derivative injections to stop and combat all the infections from all the injection sites.
Yikes.
This dude had more fucking track marks than Keith Richards in the 70s.
Can you imagine if he was like a healthy guy? It's like, save some pussy for the rest of us, Mr. President.
Oh, yeah. He would have just... Everybody.
Like, he was already as like a sickly dude getting like the best looking girls in the world at the time. If he was completely healthy, he would have just been unstoppable.
If like you're there in the room and your wife's giving birth, they hand you the baby, you turn around to get a picture, you turn back and he's right there in your wife.
Yeah, he doesn't waste any time. Yeah.
His back was so bad, he couldn't put his shoe or his sock on his left foot without help.
Yeah.
And if he didn't get the injections at the right time, there were times where he couldn't pull papers forward across his desk, they said.
Wow.
Just reaching across the desk to pull papers. He couldn't do it.
Wow.
Whoa. That is just... A lot of people don't know, like, he was...
I didn't know that until we started doing all this research. I did not know that he had that many health problems.
Yeah. So, not good. Another crazy thing is the whole Ruby thing.
Yeah.
Ruby was best friends with the cops. Best friends. He would bring them roast beef sandwiches all the time. He'd go there he was there all the time, so nobody thought it was a big deal he was there.
Yeah.
But it's just weird. On the Friday of the shooting, there's video of him at the police station, and he is looking around like he has this look in his eye like, I am giving orders to shoot Oswald.
Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, Jack Ruby is the one that actually shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah. On top of that, they don't bring Oswald out Friday because they're interrogating him and bringing his family in. They want to know everything that's going on. So they bring him out Sunday. They were going to bring him through the basement of the jail, and they were going to have a decoy armored car. Everybody would think he'd be in that armored car, but he's in an unmarked car behind the armored car.
Right. Yep.
They had it all down to a science. Across the street, just before they're gonna release him, Ruby is getting a cashier's check from Western Union to pay a stripper, which I'm starting to like him already. I'm like, okay, I can see what he's doing now. Anyway, this lady in front of him is taking forever, taking her sweet ass time, and she finally gives up. He gets the check, and he goes across the street. He goes down around behind the police station, because in the front of the station, they have cops all there,
all over,
guarding the perimeter. He takes a side door, goes in the basement, and within 10 to 20 seconds, they brought Oswald out.
Yeah.
That means if that bitch at Western Union would have just not come off her fucking check and just waited about 30 more seconds, Ruby could have never gotten a shot off.
Yeah.
So, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
One thing after another. The big thing is, back in the 60s, and it just hit me when I was researching all this stuff, everybody who wanted change for the positive was killed. Robert was killed. John F. Kennedy was killed. Martin Luther King was killed.
Yep.
They wanted to keep
Malcolm X
killed. They wanted to keep it down to, we're going to be in full control of this.
Yeah.
Man, that is
true.
Just wild.
True. So that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you listening as always. We are on the social medias, Facebook, Instagram. Email us if you'd like. If you have any suggestions, comments, before we get canceled at gmail.com, and canceled has 2 L's in it. And we will see you next time. My name is Cooper.
I wish I was Lyndon Johnson.
Same.
Scott.
I'm Sarah.
And we will see you next time.
You'll make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.